in advance prep work that we've done. We also, as I mentioned, are going to be using the X card system. And this is something because we all make mistakes, because I'm going to make a mistake. And if that mistake happens to be going into a topic that's on the lines, then there needs to be a mechanism in place for me to be reminded that we don't talk about these things and to move on. So what the X card system is that should we get into an area that a player is not comfortable with, that we would rather leave alone, that we would rather leave behind, that we would rather fade to black for, it doesn't have to be on the Lines and Veils list. It might be, but we all have good and bad days. We have days where we are, ready to deal with things and days that we're not. So what this means is the players can put an X either in, if they want to do it in Twitch chat, that's fine. I have that open. They can do it in our Zoom chat. We use Zoom video conferencing for these games, and I have that open as well. And if I see an X, I know that whatever we're doing right now, we should move on from. And at the end of the game, I'll check in with the players and sort of, we'll talk about, what happened and make sure that that situation doesn't happen again. Now, of course, we are a community here at Variant Roles, and that community is us on screen playing, but it is also all of you out at home watching us play. And so it's important to me that as much as possible, and sort of, within the bounds of the stories that we're going to be telling, that we also don't broach topics that are going to be particularly triggering or upsetting for all of you who are watching. So if we do get into an area that is objectionable to one of you, and you really would like to continue watching and sort of not deal with that, you can also feel free to put an X in the Twitch chat, and I will do my best to respect that and find a way to move on from that scene as well. I trust the Variant Roles community. I trust all of you to use that appropriately, and also to feel free to use it when you feel like you need to. And again, just like with the Lines and Veils, if I see an X card, I don't ask questions. I just move on. Any questions from our players? Oh, good. I get to do the fun dance now. I love this dance of moving everyone's pictures again. And anyway, while I do that, do we have any... No, that's okay. Do I have any questions from the players at all about any of those safety tools that we're going to be using? Nope, that goes over here. Oh. I love that everyone on Twitch right now is watching Victoria just bounce around to every box on the screen. Here we go. And one more. Ta-da! And we're back. All right, excellent. So, yeah, thanks for bearing with me through that. But I do think it's important not only that we're clear about these things, but also that we just normalize their use. They're becoming way more sort of prolific and used in the tabletop gaming space, but if it's not 100%, it's not enough. So I just want to make sure that we're all aware and that we normalize the use of those things. Okay, let's talk about Overlight. Does someone, I actually would love to hear someone or multiple someone's sort of 1 to 3 sentence synopsis of what Overlight is. And I don't care if it's wrong or truncated or sort of goofy. I'm really curious what the 4 of you have come to. And I'll start. I'll give one to sort of get us started while you all think about it, since I'm putting you on the spot here. So for me, as I've read through this rulebook that Renegade Games provided for me, Overlight is a beautiful, they call it kaleidoscopic fantasy, which is just to say vibrant and full of life and color. It's a fantasy game. Oh, hey, thanks for the something. Oh, thanks for the host, Diana. Oh, you're right here. I'm looking at you. Overlight is a beautiful, colorful, vibrant fantasy game where the players play individuals called Skyborn, who, among other things, are genetically predisposed to make the world a better place. Now, what that means to any given individual, who's to say? But it's a game where we can explore incredibly different what are called folk or species, races, however you want to deal with, and do that in a way that is beautiful and vibrant and much heavier on roleplay than some other RPG systems. Okay, that wasn't great, but who wants to give it another try? Thanks for the follow, Robert.
It's the place where just don't think about it too hard, because it just is.
Yes, definitely.
There's like a fact in here, and it's like, well, how do these floating continents float around in the air? Don't think about it, just is.
Yes, yep.
And there's a whole section that's just the answer to everything. So, it just is.
It just is. And we're going to lean real heavy on it just is, because this system, I should mention, is new to all 5 of us. I've had a little more time to go through the book and the lore than these 4 fine individuals, but it's new to all of us. Hey, thanks for the follow. I can't see your name. Commodies. But we're all learning. We're learning about the world, we're learning about the lore, and we're learning the rules. So it just is. I love that. Thank you, Victoria.
You're welcome.
Anybody else got something?
Sorry.
Y'all, not all at once, because they can't hear or understand what you're saying.
If you ever want to know what it's like to live as a rainbow, your own personalized rainbow, and also interact with other people's personalized rainbows, this is the game for you.
Yes, absolutely.
Like a vague, like, attempt at describing the setting is, once upon a time there was the Earth and then somebody screwed it up. And now there is sky forever, there is ocean forever, and there's a whole bunch of floating continents, and we just have to deal with that now. And also there is a form of magic. There is a magic system.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. There's no sun, there's no moon, there's no day and night. That's a thing you kind of have to figure out.
That was
But also it's been such a long time since it changed that I don't think we would have a concept of like a lunar cycle.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that was one of the toughest things. I did a brief little test session of this game with some other individuals, and the hardest thing was talking about, like, well, how long does it take us to get from here to there? Well, you probably will have to sleep a few times.
We'll just call them sleeps.
Yes, I love that. Sleeps.
We're basically Alaskans now.
I love that.
I'm just
I love
thinking of that Iceland daylight savings time video now.
Awesome. So yeah, Overlight is all of these things, and we're going to discover what it is as these episodes go on, and I'm excited about it. I want to talk a little bit about, hey, thanks for the follow, Witchwater.
Oh, hi, Witchwater.
Oh, yay. We know. I love it when we have friends that join us. I love that. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about the world, which we've sort of touched on here and there, and I'm probably going to go on too long, so you all interrupt me when I'm getting boring. And also feel free to toss in your own things as I go through. So the world of Overlight, as we've mentioned, is a world shattered, a world broken. Humanity, and by that I don't mean just humans, but I mean what are called the folk, so the 7 species of the world, were given a great and powerful gift by the gods. And shocker, we messed it up. There was basically one rule, and we broke it. And so the world shattered. And what is left are 7 continents that we call shards that are stacked up vertically in space on top of one another, never changing their orientation vertically. They're always the same distance apart. But each of them has its own orbit, its own horizontal orbit. And so sometimes certain shards are on top of others, and that is sort of the celestial movement of this world. As Nat mentioned, there is no sun or moon. There is a source of light that is above all 7 shards. It is called the Overlight, and it just is. There is no source from it. There is no... again, it just
sure
is.
There.
Right, it just is. It sure is there. It is the source of light and life and energy and magic. Our people, our players, the Skyborn, are... unique for a couple of reasons. One, as I already mentioned, is their genetic predisposition to making the world a better place, whatever that means to them. But the other thing that's super great about Skyborn that makes them interesting characters to play is that they are essentially living prisms for the Overlight. Skyborn are able to take the Overlight and split it into its constituent colors, each of which relates to a specific virtue in the world. And they can then use that prismed out light to perform what are called chroma, or magical feats. And the system by which we use that is not important right now, but suffice it to say there are a lot of different chroma that are available to our players based on what folk they're a part of, what background they have, what their experiences have been, and all of the chroma leave lots of opportunity for role-playing, which is very exciting. What else do we need to know about the world? Well, we're going to be starting. On the 5th shard down from the top. That is the shard that's called Hark, and Hark is home to what we most closely think of as humans, which in this world are known as the Harkeen. And Hark is one, unsurprisingly I suppose if it's the home of humans, is one great big shard-wide city. The entire shard is a city that rises up into the sky and delves deep into the ground of the shard. It's almost sort of like an inverted cone with terraces and layers and rings going down into the earth and, as I said, being built up around it. That's where most of our first story arc will take place, is there on the city magnificent of Hark. And so I think at this point, we will continue to talk more about the world and the lore and all of that good stuff as we go, but I think maybe we should start meeting some of the Skyborn that we're going to be following for the next several weeks. And I do hate to put you on the spot, but since we're talking about Hark, Nat, it seems only fitting that we begin with our Harkeen Skyborn.
Yeah. Well, funnily enough, he's not sure he is one yet.
Oh, well, true. But at least Harkeen. He is sure that he's Harkeen, right?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
No, yes, he is from Hark. He is Harkeen. His name is Kanra. He is. What exactly should I be saying, like, in terms of, like, mechanical stuff, first of all?
Well, so that's the thing. So Overlight doesn't have classes like D&D and some other sort of better-known role-playing games does. So I think you, mechanically, I don't know that we have to dig into specifics like, these are my virtues and this is my level of virtues. But I think you can just sort of tell us what their background is, because I think that's useful. And then maybe talk a little bit about what they're good at in terms of the skills and the virtues that you've upgraded.
Gotcha. Yeah. Sounds good. Yeah, as I was saying, my character is named Kanra. He is nervous almost all the time and awkward, and he's very personable, as in he likes people, but he is very lonely because people don't often like him. He is a master historian by trade, and mostly what that means is that he spends a lot of time in the library, and when he's not in the library, he is kind of being a tour guide to Hark because it's a gigantic continent-sized city. And basically anybody else would get lost there. He is good with machines and bad with people.
I didn't know you were playing me. No, I kid. I love it. Cool. What, let's see. How old-ish is he? Did we talk about that?
I wasn't actually very sure. I think he's young
Okay.
for what you
That's
would call
enough.
a historian.
Sure.
So probably like older grad student age.
Great. I love that. They are not aware of these questions. No one of these players are aware of these questions that I'm about to ask them. And they're going to be different for everybody. So your next question, Nat, about Kanra. Kanra?
Mm-hmm. Kanra.
Kanra. Kanra is, what is Kanra's favorite food?
Ooh. I think he's probably eaten a whole lot of street food just by virtue of this is a gigantic city, and I don't think he likes any of it.
I love that. And
which is directly contradictory to me. I love street food.
Yeah.
And cities have the best street food.
That answer also just feels so Kanra, right? Like the question was, what's your favorite food? And he just immediately tells me what he doesn't like.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, last question for Kanra is, what embarrassing moment did Kanra have recently?
How many do you mean?
Just one.
Oh God. Oh Lord, this is fantastic. Probably something involving he decided he needed to put a book down and wanted to mark his place, and he just grabbed the first thing that he could to mark the place, and it was something like someone's lunch or something.
Yep.
And just like mashed it into the book when he closed it by accident.
Ooh, and I bet the other
had to
historians
live with that fact.
Didn't
oh yeah,
that.
No, the other historians are all like a couple of like decades older than him at least, and have no idea what to do with this kid.
I love that. I love that. All right, so that is Kanra, our very good historian boy. Does anyone want to go next? I can certainly roll a die and pick
I'll go
someone.
next.
All right, do it, Alicia.
Cool. So I play Sigi, who is a tundra runner, so she's really good at running. She really likes money. And those are the main two characteristics.
I love it. What shard is she from? Is Sigi?
She is Sigi.
Sigi. What shard is Sigi from?
It's Pi. The shard isn't called Pyre. The folk are called Pyre. Now I'm trying to remember what the shard.
The shard is called Pyre. Yep.
Pyre. Okay.
Pyre. Yep. You were.
Yeah, so she's from Pyre.
I love that.
Although she does try and get jobs to different shards when she can, because that's more money.
Yeah, absolutely. We should talk a little bit about what the Pyroi are, what they look like, what their culture is like. So take that away, and I can fill in gaps if you need.
So Siggy is quite hard to miss, as are all Pyroi. Mm-hmm. They are large, sort of reddish, or they can be reddish or bronze or gold skin, sort of on the metallic scale, because Pyre is full of magma and snow. Don't ask. It has both. Hardy folk,
It
just is.
Yes.
They're hardy folk. They kind of have feet sort of like elephants, with the tusk, and they're hardened. And one thing that's common to do is to tattoo around the feet, stuff like volcanoes and everything, because it's just like, because fire and lava and stuff like that is the driving, is showing the strength and whatnot to the Pyroi. Other tattoos may have them besides that, and by tattoo I mean you carve into your thick flesh until it's grooved in the right way. Quite literally.
Absolutely. We should also, and we'll circle back around to get this for Conra in a minute, because I forgot to mention it for the Harkeen, but each shard, the people of each shard, in general, adhere to one of the 7 virtues as what's called their core virtue. It's the one that they hold most dear, it's the one that they live their lives by. And on Pyre, the virtue is might, which might have been clear from Alicia's description of the people of Pyre. The 7 virtues I should mention are might, vigor, will, compassion, logic, wisdom, and spirit. And so Pyroi people generally hold might as their core virtue, but a third thing that sets Skyborn apart from others of their folk is that they rarely, if ever, hold the same core virtue as the majority of their people. So what is Siggy's core virtue?
Siggy's core virtue is will.
Love that. Tell me more.
And because her core virtue is because she is going to find a way to get what she wants. Initially, she was going to go for more what's known on Pyre as an ember tongue, but she wasn't quite glib enough of tongue or clever enough to do that. But speed, she has down. So her will is to build her representation across the shards, and just really put her stamp on history, as it were.
I love that. Okay, it's time for your questions. Are you ready?
Sure.
First question, does Siggy have any siblings?
Siggy does not. Siggy is an only child.
Okay. Does Siggy read much?
Contracts, yes.
Okay. So in that case, what was a recent contract that Siggy feels particularly good about negotiating?
So a recent contract that she had to deal with was, because one thing about Tundra Runners, while she can do things on other spheres, they're traditionally used to send letters between different war bands. And Pyre has some very unforgiving landscapes, so there was, so she had to deliver one from, and I looked at the different tribe names and I can't remember, but she had to deliver a letter of challenge from one to the other and avoid, I think they're called threshers, like a herd of them to get the message there.
Ooh, I hope she got paid well for that one.
Oh yeah, hazard pay.
Absolutely. Hazard pay. Okay. And last question, let's see. What is... Oh, that's kind of intense. No, let's do something else. What is something that Siggy does when she's feeling down or upset or anxious to sort of calm and center herself?
To sort of calm and center herself, she actually gets as close as she can stand to the lava river.
Oh, I love that.
And kind of like just embrace that heat and everything, and let sort of like a cleansing fire and warmth sort of thing, let that settle through her.
I love
and
that.
when she's, settled and can't take it anymore, it's just like, all right, I am refreshed. I have proven my endurance once again. The fire is within me.
I love that. I hope she doesn't find need of a lava flow while she's in a hark.
Yeah, hopefully not. That'd be hard.
It would be hard.
That would be hard.
All right. We have Victoria and Diana next. Who wants to go?
I can go next.
All right, do it, Diana.
All right, my character is Zaida, and she is from Vale, and they are the Arumel. They're a little bit taller than normal Harkeen. Very languid, long shapes. Kind of, I guess you would consider close to like wood elf type if you wanted to like compare to other systems and everything.
Not bad, that.
She uses they doesn't tend to really care either way. Tends to dress a little bit more feminine when she has the money for it, which isn't very often. She is a deckhand for an airship, and has only been recently in that job, particularly. So it's probably her first time being on Hark.
Okay. Is this her first time off of Vale, her home shard period?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
She traveled all of Vale for sure.
Sure. Sure.
But was very excited to finally get onto a ship where she could leave and explore. Probably past teens, but not necessarily like middle age for her kind.
Sure.
Still very, I guess would say naive a bit.
Oh, okay. Okay. I like that.
In certain aspects.
I like that. So as we have mentioned, Yaida is an Aramel from the Shard of Vale. On Vale, our Vale is filled with, well, it's filled with master artisans who are also sometimes master hedonists. But, you know, and on Vale, all of the Aramel wear masks, these beautifully crafted, well, most of them have beautifully crafted artisan masks, and sometimes a mask actually is what embodies a person's persona and personality, and it has been known for master artisans to know that their great masterpiece will not be finished within their lifetime, and so they pass their mask on to their apprentices and their journeymen and their students, and then those apprentices, when they don the mask, become that previous master. They use their name, the work that they do is attributed to that previous master, and so enormous masterpieces that take generations to complete can be completed, as far as the Aramel are concerned, by one master, by one artisan. And so what is the core virtue generally on Vale?
It is vigor.
It is vigor. And what is Yaida's core virtue?
Compassion.
Oh, compassion. Tell us more about that.
Usually deckhands tend to come from not privileged areas. Vale has 4 castes. They do use a class system on Vale. Obviously, top tier is all the people who get to be hedonists. Basically, they're the ones, and below that is the guild people, the guild masters, and then it's the laborers, and then finally the slaves. And there's a slightly technically extra class system of anybody who's not Aurelian. So anyone who comes from any of the other shards, I wrote this down. Where did it go?
I know what you're talking about, but I don't remember the terminology either, so I'm not going to give any help.
Decked.
There you go.
They're called the decked, and to even visit Vale or to go almost anywhere in Vale, you need to have permission and sponsorship from an RML to even come there. Right. So there's a lot hidden beneath the surface in Vale, I believe, which is pretty apt since they all wear masks. And yeah, even if you aren't of a master lineage of artisans with masks, if you have anything beyond a first generation mask, that gives you a little bit extra prestige. So Yaida actually has a second generation mask.
Okay, so she's got a little bit of something going with her. Hey, thanks for the sub, Chase. Oh, and welcome Dice Prairie. Thanks for the raid.
Woo!
All right. Last but most certainly not least, Victoria and our Banyari lovely.
Yeah, I am playing Nodi. I am a Verthod Leafkin. So essentially, I am panda bear sized, and I look kind of like a mouse, but with more cat-like ears.
Yeah.
And I have plants growing all over me, but the plants are just as much a part of me as my physical body, and I can control those plants as if they were extensions, like appendages of my body. I dress very plainly, and I have a walking staff that has bamboo wind chimes off of them. And I've got a succulent growing out of my back, and it looks like this. I'm about 52 years old.
Okay.
And this is also my first time off of my shard, off of Banyan. And yeah, Banyan is like a great forest. And then there's also the Malachite Plains. And it's just huge, massive trees where entire people can live on one giant branch, kind of thing. And the Verthod of my people, we tend to be very solitary, and we just like to live out there and commune with trees and meditate a lot and just be one with the world.
You are so particularly good at it with that symbiotic relationship with the plants. I will say Bunyari and another folk that none of our players are playing, the Tyrixians, which are small feathered reptilian creatures, are definitely in the camp of it just is.
Yeah.
Yes, Banyan is a very cool shard, and I love it. One of the other things, did you mention hearthwood trees?
No, I did not. So yeah, I do have a heartwood nut.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. So the heartwood trees are like these great big, very important, culturally significant trees to our people. And
yeah, there's a deep spiritual, if not possibly even direct physical. Physical's not exactly right because they're not physically tethered to the trees, but there's a deep connection with each of the Banyari tribes to their hearthwood tree, and there's a very sad history for one of the tribes where their hearthwood was destroyed, and that tribe of Banyari are slowly fading from existence because of it. So they are jealously guarded. Awesome. So what is the core virtue for most Banyari?
It would be compassion.
And what is it, Nodi?
Yes.
Great. What is Nodi's core virtue?
Wisdom. Nodi just really likes meditating and observing.
I love that. Has Nodi been to see any other hearthwood tree that isn't hers?
No.
Okay.
No, she's been very, very solitary. What is Nodi's favorite? Well, if Nodi plays games, what is Nodi's favorite game? Oh, Nodi likes to race the squirrels in the trees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does she win?
Sometimes.
Fair enough.
She's getting older. It's harder.
Sure.
She's not as spry as she used to be.
Sure. So since Nodi's a little bit older, what is something that Nodi wants to do with the remainder of her life, or at least to accomplish at some point during the remainder of her life? It doesn't have to be a grand thing. It can be something small if you prefer.
Well, her really, she was quite content just living in the great forest and eating nut paste and racing squirrels. But she had a revelation, because that's one of her powers. And in it she saw Hark, and that is why she has come to Hark. Otherwise she would never have left. So really the thing in her life is the hearth, in her mind, it's like the hearthwood tree is telling her, you need to go do something somewhere else. So that's what she's going to do.
What a fantastic segue into the next big question for Siggy and Yaira, which is what took you all to Hark, where we will begin our first adventure.
Message for the because the Hark has the Council of Seven, so the current representative of the Pyroi, a message from their family needed to be delivered, so that's why Siggy's there delivering.
Delivering a message to the council. I love that.
Yeah.
And Yaira?
It was actually a secret mission from the Dome that luckily she just happened to be on the right ship for.
Okay. So she was not tasked with the mission. She just...
No.
Okay.
But just that it was of great importance and that it came from Dome. So she's just a mere deckhand.
Got it. Well, a mere deckhand. You make the ship go. Without
Of
you,
course.
they would find another deckhand. All right.
Which there are plenty.
All right. I love it. So that is our motley crew of folk from the different shards. Yes. Conra.
Core virtue.
Oh, yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, core virtue
no
for
worries,
Conra
no
and
worries.
for... Yeah.
Yeah, so the usual core virtue of Hark is will, I believe.
Yes, I believe that is
And
true.
Conra's is logic. And an interesting thing about everybody's in this is that I'm going to hold up the character sheet to the screen so you can see that they're like in order from the bottom shard to the highest. We each moved up 2.
Really? Oh, I hadn't
Yeah.
noticed
Oh.
that.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
I
you know
believe,
what?
yeah.
You're right.
We each moved
Oh.
up 2 shards for our core virtue.
Striving
really cool.
for the overlight itself. I love that. What a
It
cool
was
thing to
totally
notice.
planned.
Yeah, no,
Absolutely.
absolutely. Yes, no.
It absolutely
100%.
wasn't
Clever
planned.
like that. I love it. How very cool. Excellent. All right.
Anyways, as you were.
Yes, no, I love that. Cool. So, unless there's anything else... Oh, do any of you all know each other? Have any of you all met since the rest of your arrival on Hark?
I mean, if anybody was looking for a tour guide, they might have met Conra.
Sure. I mean, I know Siggy had a very specific place to be, and I don't know that any of you would have
Yes,
been
I
anywhere
don't know
near
if
the
she would have
council.
been.
Yeah. And it sounds like Yaida arrived fairly recently with this secret mission that we don't know anything about because it's secret.
Yeah.
So Nodi's the only one who might. Nodi, how do you feel about it?
Sure. I don't know if Nodi would be looking specifically for a tour guide, but I think they wouldn't look confused because they're just very peaceful all the time. So
Sure.
I think Nodi would have just like sat somewhere kind of strange, because not knowing how to behave in a city, like this is alien.
Absolutely.
This is
Mhm.
like nothing that I would have ever have seen. So I don't know, like found a crate and a crane and like climbed up it and sat down and
Just up in the... I love it.
just started watching.
I love it so much. So actually, let's. I mean, we're gonna we'll continue to do this introductory stuff, and if we have questions and whatever, we'll go with that. But let's actually jump in a little bit here and say that that Conra, you're walking through the city magnificent, and you happen to sort of glance up and see, there's this is probably near. Oh well, this is even better because now we'll tie Yaida into. So we're probably near the docks at this point, right? And there's some cranes that are offloading cargo from some of the ships that have arrived from the various shards. And so you look up because it's sort of fun to watch the different mechanics of these cranes, and you see what at first looks maybe like one of the crates is growing something. You just see bits of green and brown sort of coming off the top of the crate. But as you look more closely, you can see that in fact it is.
That's
and
a
you of
whole
course
person.
would know. I don't know if you've seen. You probably have seen.
Yeah,
a few
everybody
Banyari.
lives. Everyone lives on Hark.
Exactly. But this one seems to be.
There's a whole person up there.
Exactly. Yeah.
Do you need help? Are you okay?
Oh,
Yes.
me?
Yes. You're just.
Oh, I'm fine. I am fine.
Oh, you're up there on purpose.
Am I,
I want
not
to-
supposed to be?
I want to know the accident that gets a Bunyari up on a crate in the sky. But
I don't. I mean, there's not a supposed to or a not supposed to be up there, but you're certainly there. That's just not a thing that's done. Usually, it's not safe.
I climb down. But like in a very like swinging down, like I live in the trees kind of way.
That's exactly.
And
Oh god. Oh god. Trapdoors artists make me nervous. So down she
I've
comes.
never seen a tree in my life.
No, there's a somewhere.
They
Oh, I
have,
don't know if
like,
you've been
a
there.
tree is a thing that you prune in a garden.
Right, exactly.
It's the size of me.
Exactly.
yeah, and so I just kind of swing down and land down, stick my staff, the bamboo wind chimes, chunk. They're not
Swing
very
it up.
great. I mean, it's more of like a clunk, 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 clunk. But
It's music to my
Our-
ears. Why don't we see at this point if Yaida, who is on the ship on the other side of this dock, has noticed what's going on. And also, we're going to finally play the game mechanically. So, Yaida, why don't you make us a wisdom perception. Oh, that's the same as D&D. I can remember that. Do a wisdom perception test. So what that
Okay.
means is our players, our characters have ratings for 6 of the 7 virtues. Spirit is a little bit different. We'll get to that when they start using chroma. But they have ratings for their 6 virtues that tell them essentially what size die they roll for a certain virtue. And then they have certain skills that are trained and also have die ratings. And so when I call for something like a wisdom perception, that's virtue and skill, they're going to take 3 dice of the virtue. So in this case, Yaida will take 3 of her wisdom dice, which are D6, and then she's going to take 3 of her perception dice if it's trained. Is your perception trained?
Yep, it's also a D6.
Okay, so Yaida's going to take 6 D6s and then a D4, and I've put them to the side. Some of us have, and the rest of us will be getting soon, these lovely, colorful virtue dice provided by Renegade Game Studios. And so you will roll one of those in addition. That's called the spirit die, and we'll get into what that can do for you if it becomes an issue. So go ahead and make your wisdom perception test.
So rare, I got 3 6s.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
In this
And
game...
sadly, not a 4 on the D4.
Oh, well, that's all right. 3 is still a luminous success. So what we
Yes.
count when the players do tests in this game is the number of successes on their die. You have to get a 6 or better to succeed. So congratulations on a handful of D6s. You actually managed to get enough successes to succeed at this test. So 3 successes is a luminous success. And so you do hear, or I think maybe you see out of the corner of your eye, you see what you also thought was perhaps just something that had grown on one of the crates, begin to move and then begin to swing down and make its way down to the ground. And it seems that you're not the only newbie to Hark that is on the docks today.
No, it seems like they don't have their architecture all correct over here. That's different. And Yaida was taking the opportunity to find a way to kind of escape the ship for a little bit, because technically there's nothing else for the deckhand to do while we're docked, and starts ambling over there. She's in normal, like, deckhand kind of clothes, like airship sailor kind of clothing, has a cargo hook connected to her belt, and you could possibly see something glinting around, like, at the collar of her outfit, but can't really see because it's still fully covered by her outfit. And she just comes forward, and she has, my mask is not yet gonna representative of what Yaida looks like, but her mask is going to be a half mask, and in theory it's wooden with shapes that's kind of naval in scope, and with like little bits of cogs on it, and not necessarily very colorful. Most of the color she gets is from her hair and the little, like, she found some flowers along the way from getting here that she's put in her hair. And But yeah, so and that's typical of most RML. They're almost always like with their mask.
Absolutely.
And just kind of like getting close to where you two are, but not quite saying anything yet. Just watching, like, huh, these are how the Drekt are.
And so you two are over there, and Nodi, you've made it down to
Mhm.
Conra off of your crane at this point.
Yep.
Interesting point of order / question.
Yeah.
Did I make this up or did I actually read this that you can tell someone's a Skyborn by the color of their eyes?
Oh, yes, good. I've, like, 3 times I was like, oh, I have to remember to mention this, and then I didn't. Yes, so Skyborn are born with a sort of metallic sheen to their irises, and it only becomes more pronounced when they begin to manifest their chroma powers. So that's actually a good question to ask.
Yeah,
Nodi,
that is
you mentioned, I think, in your backstory, you have manifested chroma before, yes?
Yes.
Okay, so your
I was
eyes
about to
are
ask what
very
it is.
clearly Skyborn eyes, and it's the sort of thing that sort of most people know what that means, and I won't really require you all to make wisdom perception checks tests or anything like that to notice it, because A, it's pretty striking, and B, sort of everyone knows what it means and knows, you know.
That was going to be my next question is, do I notice that?
I think you probably do once Nodi walks up to you, and you know, if you two are face to face, it's fairly obvious.
Yeah, then that's going to be the, oh. As you were, maybe you were up there for a reason. You can go back up.
Oh, well, when you're unfamiliar with a new place, I find it works well to find a nice high point and watch.
That's very fair. I would usually agree with that if there was, you know, not buildings in everywhere. I think I don't. The theory makes sense. Yes. What were you looking for?
Everything.
That's overwhelming.
Indeed. I've learned quite a bit. I've learned about how you unload and load ships. I have learned how people greet each other. I have learned how people maybe are not always. There are certain types of people that I should probably stay away from.
Oh, absolutely. No, people are they're at their core they're people. And sometimes that's unfortunate. But that's also, you know, that's the beauty of a city is that there's people everywhere and they're all different.
I would prefer more trees.
There is part of the city with more trees.
Oh,
How do you know what class everyone is? And that's the voice you hear behind the two of you.
pardon?
Clearly, there's different classes here. On Vale,
like academically?
no, not academically. Like, if we're supposed to greet you with more respect or less respect. You all
we
aren't
just
wearing
treat
any
everyone
adornment.
with equal amounts of respect?
Do you act like you're worthy of respect? Then I will treat you with respect. If you disrespect me, I won't respect you.
Yes. All right. As we continue this conversation that I'm kind of obsessed with, let me have a couple of you make some tests for me. Conra, will you make me a... Which one is this in? Will you make me a wisdom folklore test?
Oh god. What do I roll if I don't have anything in that?
Right, so all
You roll
of their virtues,
1d6
correct.
for
So
that.
all of your virtues have at least a d6 rating in them, but your skills might be
Yeah.
untrained. If I ask
Yeah,
you to make
that's
an
what I meant.
untrained test, then you're only going to roll 1d6 for your skill instead of 3 of whatever the rating would be.
Okay.
Nodi, will you make me a... I'm just all of the wisdom tests, apparently. Will you make me a wisdom intuition test?
Well, I still
Okay.
rolled 3 6s,
Oh, wow, nice.
All right.
which is I rolled 3 6s and a 1, which is bananas.
Oh no.
Okay.
I'm gonna be
so,
the bad roller.
What's up, Nodi?
Oh, I just want to be walked through this. So
Yes,
my
absolutely.
wisdom is a D10.
So you're
So
going to roll 3d10,
okay.
and then your intuition is... I have your sheet somewhere, but... Your
My intuition
is
is a D8.
okay, so 3d10 and 3d8, and then always roll the spirit die. So always add a d4 to your hand. So Conrad, did you roll a d4?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
2.
2. Okay.
So many.
So for these tests, for these skill tests, the spirit die only matters if you roll a 4.
Okay, so the spirit die rolled a 2.
Okay.
And are these total or just like
We're looking for how many dice have 6 or better on them.
2?
2. Okay. So we're gonna start with Conra. So Conra, you made a wisdom folklore test.
A deeply improbable success.
Well, sort of, but actually it's gonna make sense. So you got a luminous success, which is sort of our bottom level of success, but it is still a success. So Yaira, why don't you tell Conra a little bit about what he might know looking at your mask? You mentioned earlier when you were introducing us to her that it's a second generation mask, that it's a deckhand mask. Pick a couple of basic details that he would be able to know about you based on your mask.
It isn't, because definitely Conrad's seen many different RML because this is the city that has everybody.
Sure.
It is not as finely crafted as other masks. It's a little crude, but attention to detail. It looks newer than expected. Like, most other people would have expected it to be, for most RML, first generation mask. But there's probably just a little bit of hints of it being maybe a little worn, but not actively worn. And just that, yeah, definitely not a captain. No one of like high status kind of job.
Yeah, I think with the luminous success, at the very least, you'd be able to identify her station as a deckhand. Excellent. So Nodi, you said you had 2 successes on your dice. So
yes.
So 2 successes is also a luminous success. And what you'll notice about Conra is that he does have that ever so slight metallic sheen to his irises, but it's barely there. And what I think you intuit is that he's not old. He's a young adult, but he's older than, well, at least most Banyari Skyborn are by the time they've manifested their first chroma. So he's rather confusing. At first glance, you would think he was a Skyborn, but actually you're not sure.
Okay.
So I loved whatever it was that I interrupted when Yaida walked up and said, "How do you know what it was?" I wanted to get those 2 tests in, but please let's go on with that little discussion.
Yeah, and so Yaida doesn't take doesn't quite understand the tone that you had responded, and it's just like, and just shrugs like, well, it's easier to see it before you have to act.
How do you know how to act until you've seen it?
That is a good question.
Alicia, did you have something, or was that just a...
No, that was the,
okay, great.
the point.
All right. I love it. Great.
But it is refreshing not to see practically any slaves around here. Do you have them hidden away?
We don't do that here.
So there's no hunters then?
What?
That's good to hear. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt
you. What do you hunt in a
city?
Two.
Well, runaways, criminals.
Oh, I thought you were talking about like hunters, like to get food and things. Oh dear.
No, we just import that in.
I've made a faux pas. I apologize. Clearly,
Nodi's just standing there with her staff, watching back and forth.
and on that beautiful tableau of Nodi bouncing back and forth like a really energetic ping pong game, we're actually going to crossfade over to Siggy very briefly, who is just leaving the Council of Seven's main headquarters, having delivered your message, been paid whatever was left on the contract to be paid on delivery, and it went fairly fairly normally, right? Nothing out of the ordinary. And so you find yourself out and sort of very near to both the docks, or some of the docks here on Hark, and also the Great Bazaar is sort of on the other side of you, which is one of the liveliest sections of the city, a great market, and a fairly popular place for off-shard visitors, because you can find a little bit of everything and a little bit of everyone there. What might Siggy get up to?
I think Siggy would actually steer away from the bazaar because it's just like, I just got this money. I don't need to go to the bazaar when I still have all of it on me.
Siggy and I... Meanwhile, I'm just like, I have this money. I gotta go spend it.
Yeah, so she's probably just gonna kind of head toward the docks, just kind of taking the sights, maybe find a bar eventually. She's just having a stroll around right now, though.
I love that. Well, such a good segue, because I think as you're strolling along the docks, you see this motley crew. I promise we didn't plan any of this. You all are just so good at leading me into each other. This little motley crew, this little Banyari is there just sort of watching this Armel and this Harkeen scholar having quite the erudite and philosophical discussion, it seems.
It's not that Conrad doesn't understand the politics of Vale. He just doesn't understand that somebody else might not get that they don't work that way here.
I think Siggy would sort of like get close enough to hear and sort of just be watching, and at that point going back and forth with the Bunyari. I don't know your character's name yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So
Pre-show.
Are you? Yeah, absolutely. Are you getting like right up next to Nodi and just
pretty
watching
much?
There? Oh my god, I love that. So at some point then during this, well, I won't call it a debate, this spirited discussion, I think the three of you, in your own time, sort of notice that you have been joined. Like Alicia has already mentioned, Siggy's hard to miss.
I don't know. I'm not trained in perception.
That is a good point.
Maybe
you're the last.
Perception score.
How tall is Siggy?
I think because the pyro are pretty great. I was thinking she was like 9 feet or something.
Oh,
she's big.
Yeah.
And I'm like 2 feet.
Uh-huh.
And I think RML are like 6 feet, 6-ish,
Yep.
7-ish.
All right. Well,
So we
now
have a
gotta
range.
know, how tall is Conra?
Like 5'8".
Okay. So it's a little
not
step,
short.
some uneven steps, but there's
Well,
steps.
if you take
bars in more
if you
places.
take the mean of that,
There you
we
go.
average out.
I love it.
But I think you'd be the first pyro I've ever seen. So I turn and look up because I'm not used to having to look up. I'm like, oh, you're a curious sort.
Hello. I decided to step to see the show up front. It was free, so why not?
I love the accent. I wish I could do accents.
Conrad looks
Mine are
around.
bad,
Is that-
Show.
Is that a mask you're wearing?
That I'm
It's
wearing?
very beautiful if it is. Who crafted it?
Oh.
This is my face.
Oh. Out of character, would we call it like when you fail the chromas, like shatter? Like, is that like the term people would use?
I think so. I don't see why not. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably something that's not super well known among non-Skyborn. I mean, they know that it happens, but I can't imagine that they would be super interested in some of the dark things that happen when Skyborn mess up. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I look up at you. I'm like, oh, did you shatter too much? Does it hurt?
That's
You most certainly do not know much about the pyro. You're lucky I am of a more even temperament.
I'm trying to be quiet and failing. I'm not sure this one knows much about anything off of Vale, actually.
I see that.
She asked me
Yes,
where we
this
kept
is
the
actually my
slaves.
first time off of Vale. I'm really grateful to be here.
Well, congratulations and welcome to the rest of the world.
Thank you.
You should stick to this shot and not venture lower. You would not last very long.
Vale is lower.
I
isn't
was
it?
gonna say.
She
But
meant lower than Vale, but she said what she said.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. I love it.
I mean, I would like to venture everywhere, but Any time to get, away from Vale. I would love. Do you allow people from other shards to come to yours? Do I need a sponsor?
Course. But all right, the Arumel. They're such a pain to work for.
That's probably true.
I don't
Pain to
disagree.
research.
At this point, while you all are in the midst of this discussion, a pretty large group of mostly children and maybe very young adults come sort of running in this gaggle, running from the opposite end of the dock right towards you all, frankly, and sort of blow past you and towards the great market, towards the great bazaar.
First check.
What's that? What'd you say?
Coin purse check.
Coin first.
It's still there. It's still there. They don't. A couple of them have sort of stopped and are just staring and looking at, well, not so much at Conra, but at the rest of you, because they certainly, these youngsters have certainly never seen a Banyari or a Pyroi or an Aramel. But for the most part, they clearly are on a mission, and they were just running and barely even noticed you all as they ran past.
Do I know if there's an event going on?
That's a good question, and I think that you do. Today is a festival day in the market. Minor festival day, but it's a day that lots of street musicians will be out and playing, and many of the musicians have a tradition of having a small number of candies that they pass out to some of the first people that come to listen to them. So, of course, the children spend the day sort of running to and fro and trying to get to each musician as they start.
I will snap on the tour guide persona. Well, if it's your first time to Hark, I know exactly where you need to go right now.
Ooh.
Yes, there's a music festival in the market right now, actually.
Oh, music! I can really play the chimes.
I could see that. It's sick.
Well, I mean, this is just for ambience. This isn't, playing.
It's playful.
It tells me where the wind is coming from.
I'm going to head that way for entertainment.
I scurry along to try to keep up with your big 9-foot tall strides.
Goodness, yes, all of you keeping pace with each other is going to be a fun game.
Right.
Good thing I like to race squirrels.
Absolutely what I was thinking. It's only going to be, it's got to be easier on flat ground than it is running across branches, so this is a breeze.
Right? Exactly.
I would think Conra's mastered the Manhattan fast walk.
Oh, for sure. Oh, for sure. I love it. So you all, it sounds like, and Yaida, are you joining them as well?
Yeah, I trail after. I think I give like one last glance to the ship. I'm like, okay, they didn't notice me leave. Good.
Great. Cool. And actually, let's. So you all head and with Conra in the lead, doing a remarkably deft job of sort of navigating through the crowds and the crush.
Don't touch me.
Once you get closer to the market, and we do see. In fact, Yaida, why don't you make me one more wisdom perception test?
Okay.
Perform one more wisdom perception test. There we go.
Come on, select them all.
So what did we say this was for you? 66 and a D4?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I got 3 6s again.
Oh, man. All right, so another luminous
Rocking
success. Didn't get a 4 on the spirit die, did you?
No, only a 3 again.
Okay.
So almost.
So you were sort of the last to go because, as you said, you turned to look at the ship to see if anybody noticed you. And you do actually see another deckhand on your ship who seems to be sort of watching you. But as he notices you looking to check the ship, he very quickly busies himself with some of the tie lines and turns away.
Yeah, I think I try to like get closer to Siggy because Siggy's taller, so I can technically hide behind
Sure.
Siggy a little bit.
Pretty easily.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I think I tried to make conversation like, oh, I didn't notice that at all, kind of thing. It's like, so what?
Aggressively
I didn't manage to.
nonchalant.
Yeah, I didn't catch your name, tall one.
It is Ziggy.
Siggy. That is a lovely name. I'm Yaida.
I believe I will remember that name for the wrong reasons in the future.
What would be the right reasons?
You will have to learn.
I imagine Siggy doing just that, just sort of staring down at you, blinking about 3 times, and then answering.
Pretty much.
All right. And so as the 4 of you move into the crush of the market, you hear musicians warming up, musicians tuning their instruments. You hear everything from wind instruments, percussion, stringed instruments of all timbres. And it's, for some of you, maybe despite yourselves, it's exciting and it's vibrant and it's loud and it's new. And we will explore it more after a quick break, because I didn't realize it's already 10 after 10. So we're going to take just a quick 5-minute break, everybody, 5-ish. And it's, I don't think I've ever done a stream break that's been the appropriate amount, the time amount that I've said it would be. But anyway, take a bit of a 5-minute break. We will be back shortly. Thank you all for hanging out. If you haven't already, again, hit the follow button so that you can get notifications whenever this show or any of the other many, many shows that we've got going on Variant Roles goes live. And we will see you all shortly. We'll be back. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for hanging out during that break. Hope you all got water and are staying hydrated this evening. Welcome back to Variant Roles and Renegade Game Studios present Overlight. We left our Skyborn, well, we left 3 of our Skyborn and 1 of our possibly Skyborn player characters as they entered the Great Market, the Great Bazaar on the Shard of Hark for the music festival that is going on today. They have followed a crowd of children and young adults who are racing into the market to try and snag some of the gifts of candy that many of the musicians will have out for their earliest visitors. And
I would also like some candy.
Who knows? Maybe you'll find one that no one has gotten to yet, and they'll have a few bits of candy for you. As you come in, as we said, there are sights and sounds and smells, but mostly today sounds all around you. Musicians tuning, playing on stringed instruments and percussion instruments and wind instruments all around. But there are things to be seen as well. Not long after you enter the bazaar proper, you see sort of a large figure sort of coming towards you under the shadow of some awnings of the bazaar, and before you're able to make out exactly what it is, just the crowds part in front of it, and so you can clearly see an enormous centipede creature known as a Nova Pendra, a denizen of the very top shard of the world called Nova, that's being carried on a palanquin by some servants. And there is, the centipede is sort of covered in these diaphanous veil silks, so you can very clearly see its incredibly long frame, articulated segments 12 feet long, and it is clearly both incredible and terrifying to behold as the palanquin sort of passes you all by. And that sort of sight is not terribly unusual here in the Great Bazaar, but that's not why you came. You came for the music, or at least you came because Connor was going to take you to the music. We'll see what happens from there.
Yeah, Connor's just making idle commentary about anything interesting that you're passing by.
I love that. Such as?
Well, I mean, over there you can get some of, I mean, it's not terrible food, but it's not the best food either. If you want actually good food, you're going to want to go basically anywhere else. But he's going to say that about everywhere that he points out food.
Excellent. Excellent.
Perfect.
And, ooh, they're selling some of the most gorgeous clothing in that stall. Oh no, they've sold out. Just vaguely disappointing commentary.
I do also imagine that you're sort of keeping an eye at every musician that you
Oh,
pass to see
absolutely.
if there are any treats left over.
Mm-hmm,
But so far, it looks like that crowd of people that ran in ahead of you has picked most of the musicians clean. But as you all are wandering through, you do hear, you're able to pick out above the sort of din of the bazaar and of the festival, you're able to pick out a single instrument. A clear, crystal clear note from some sort of stringed instrument rings out from somewhere beyond where you're able to see, a little bit deeper into the bazaar, where Conrad, you know that there is a small little amphitheater that's pretty dilapidated. Frankly, most of the musicians don't bother with it during this festival each year because it's not a particularly attractive place to set up because it's so disused. But the sound is unmistakably coming from there, and there almost is a sort of corona of silence around this note as it makes its way to you.
Let's follow that.
That's spooky.
I start following the sound.
Absolutely.
I'm like pipering. I'm like the kid.
I'm going to follow her because I don't want this sweet little panda lady to die.
Maybe it's just along
Sweet
for the
little
ride at
panda
this point.
lady's got some tricks up her sleeves, but yes.
I'm certain.
Yeah, the music sounds really good to me. I'm like, oh, there's true artisans about. And I'm curious
Yeah.
to be able to actually partake and enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't even think about that, but of course you would. Of course an RML would love this particular festival.
Oh, yeah.
So you all sort of make your way down towards this amphitheater that Conra, you know, is there. And
he's trying to upsell it, and he's not doing a great job.
well, so as you all arrive, you see what you expected, Connor, which is a small amphitheater, mostly empty of people, to be honest. There really isn't anyone there listening to this musician. Much to your pleasure, though, Conra, you do see that there's a small cup. Well, there are two small cups in front of the musician. One is the musician's alms cup, which several of the musicians you've seen have had in order to collect donations and such. But the other has just a few pieces of sweet candy remaining that you might be able to snag. So while that's what Conra notices first, there is also a person there to notice. And this person is plucking at the strings of a very simple instrument. They have laid their bow to the side. The sound that you heard was sort of a longer bowed sound, but now they're just, it almost seems like idly plucking, but if you listen more closely, it's definitely not idle. It's quite a complex melody and rhythm that they're plucking out on this very simple wooden instrument. It's a Harkeen man. He is dressed in fairly ragged, almost monk-like robes. And as he plays, and as little rodents that are fairly common on Hark sort of scurry about around and underneath him, he has his eyes closed and seems completely engrossed in the music that he's making.
Do I recognize the type of wood this instrument is made out of?
That is an excellent question, and I actually have something else that I wanted you to have do this for anyway, so go ahead and make me a wisdom folklore test, and why don't you, your folklore is D8, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to upgrade your folklore slightly because of what's happening, so your wisdom is D10, so you're going to have 3D10, and then instead of 3D8 for your folklore, I'm going to have you do 2D8 and a D10.
Oh.
So just upgrade one of your dice, and then of course the spirit die, the additional D4.
I just love the assortment of dice that you get to roll for
I know,
this.
isn't it fun? Isn't it fun?
I've never rolled a d12 in my life, but I'm gonna.
Okay, so I have a 4 on my spirit dice.
So we'll get to what that does in a moment, but first we have to find out how many successes you have naturally.
I have 3.
Okay, fantastic.
Nice.
So you have 3 successes, which is normally a luminous success. Every even number of successes upgrades your success level by 1, right? So 2 and 3 successes is luminous, 4 and 5 is radiant, and 6 is brilliant. So you rolled 3 successes. Luminous success, no problem. That 4 on your spirit dice can be used as an additional success if you would like, to bump it up to a radiant success.
Yeah.
Alternatively, just so that we know, since we rolled a 4 finally, and we can talk about this mechanic, the other thing that you can do if you have an odd number of successes with that 4, or if you roll an even number of successes, so adding 1 more wouldn't change your level, you can also do this in this case. You can instead take that 4 and use it to add a point to your spirit pool, which is important when casting chroma and things like that.
Okay, is that permanent or temporary?
The additional point?
Yes.
So that spirit pool is permanent. To answer your question simply, it's permanent. Whatever number is in there is how many you have. There's no maximum to your spirit pool in theory. Okay. So yeah, it would be a permanent point for you until you use it.
Okay.
So would you like to upgrade to a radiant success or bank a spirit point?
I think I want to upgrade.
Okay, yeah, I absolutely think so. And I think that makes sense because what you see immediately catches your eye. The wood of this instrument is almost certainly from Banyan. And it's absolutely, you can just tell by the grain and the coloration of the wood that it is from Banyan, and it is worked beautifully and respectfully. In addition to that,
that's the important part.
Yes, it was absolutely a gift. It had to have been a gift given, because there's no way that someone who was this careful and caring about the work would have dared to take it by force from the Banyari. With the radiant success, the other thing that you notice is that actually this man has a necklace that he's wearing that was sort of hidden at first by some of his robes, but as you look more closely, you see that this necklace has feathers all up and down it, and you immediately recognize them as dignity feathers, which are given to the heroes of the Banyari in very special and fairly rare ceremonies. So this man clearly has not only traveled to Banyan, but has interacted with and done great deeds for the Banyari.
If these are so rare, would I maybe know possibly who this might be, or maybe a list of a few different people?
Sure. Yeah, I don't know how they're necessarily super rare, but they're super rare among non-Banyari, so absolutely. I think you could probably put it together to a couple of people. There is one, there was a monk from Zenith, a Harkeen monk from Zenith that this might be, who came and helped to fight some, along with his Hamanu companion. The monks of Zenith always travel with a Hamanu companion. Hamanu are large baboon-like creatures, individuals, people. They are people. And so this monk and his Hamanu companion came and helped to fight some really devastating fires, not in your area of Banyan, but that was some time ago. So that's one possibility. It might be him. There was also a Skyborn man who came not long ago and performed some great service to one of the tribe leaders. You don't exactly remember which tribe leader it was, but you remember that individual because, strangely, the deeds that this man performed for the tribe leader were sort of kept a secret, actually. No one was actually really told why the man was receiving the dignity feathers, other than he performed great services for our tribe. So it's probably one of those two. You know stories of others, but either the individuals that you can think of are much younger than this man, or the stories are from so long ago that there's no way that Harkeen would still be living.
Do I see a Humanu anywhere around?
You do not, which is, I mean, unless something terrible has happened, is probably a good indication, but it's possible that it could be the monk.
Okay.
Can I also have, Yaira and Siggy also make wisdom folklore tests, please?
Good. Okay.
Great. How'd it go?
This is gonna be. I'm doing it now.
Oh, okay.
And so that would be because if you're untrained, it's just 1d6 instead of 3 more d6s, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and you said wisdom folklore, right?
I did indeed. And then your spirit die. Don't forget your spirit die.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
I got 1, 2, 3, 4, so 0.
Okay,
so
great.
I got 1 success, which I think is still a failure.
It is. And what did you two get on your spirit dice?
I got a 1.
Okay.
I got a 2.
Okay. All right. So nothing in particular jumps out about this man to either of you, other than that his music is truly stunning.
I think I'm just caught up in the music. Like,
absolutely.
I did not get very many chances to listen to the artistry of the musicians on Veil. So I'm just like, I'm like swaying and kind of humming along and just completely, yeah.
And as you sort of sway, the man, without opening his eyes, sort of begins to sway in time with the music and sort of with you. And as he does, you realize that he, not only is he wearing this dignity feather necklace, but he has bangles and baubles and all manner of jewelry all over him, and they sort of clink and tinkle in time with the music as he sways. Conra.
Yes, I'm going to try and get one of those candies. I'm also gonna put a coin in his thing, though. I'm not a terrible person.
Okay, so this is great because this actually brings up yet another mechanic that we haven't dealt with yet, which is the way that inventories and wealth are dealt with in Overlight. So it's all largely, in terms of your equipment and things like that, it's all very abstracted, right? But all of you have two things that sort of tell us what level of resources you have. You have a wealth pool, which has a certain number of wealth points in it, which we can imagine as gold, if you like, or just as valuables that you're able to trade and barter with. It can be anything you like. And then you have a wealth rating, which, just like your virtues, is anywhere from a d6 to a d12. And that sort of indicates how well you are able to sort of navigate commerce. So my question for you, Conra, is when you say you're going to toss something in the alms cup when you take your candy, are you going to toss, a copper or whatever it is, or are you going to toss the equivalent of a wealth point? So something a bit more
this guy's a
meaningful.
good musician,
He is
and
impressively
he's not going to get a lot of publicity out here at this
so
kind
it
of
seems. The alms cup
garbage
is
amphitheater.
very empty.
Yeah, and I want him to eat dinner tonight, so I'm gonna put a wealth point in there,
Okay.
sure.
And what does that look like? Is it coinage? Are you giving him a value? Not okay. So the other thing about
Yeah.
inventory is you have valuables.
I think
probably not one of
Conra
those,
makes
but...
money somehow.
Yeah. Okay. So just a good amount
yes.
of coin. I love that. What
Yeah.
flavor is the candy that you grab?
Nat wants to say watermelon, but it's probably not watermelon.
Well, let's see. So let's create a new fruit of Hark.
Yes.
That is sort of a combination of watermelon and
like starfruit, something.
Oh,
funky.
I love that. Okay, so like very light, and
light, but like juicy.
Yeah. I love that. So as you take the candy and sort of clink the coins into the cup, there is just the ever so slight sort of lift.
Try and drop it in the rhythm.
Yes, I love it. And you sort of like, you bobble the coin a little bit so it doesn't fall when you meant for it to, but somehow this man feels where the coin is going to clink and manages to adjust his tempo so that it fits right into the music. And again, without opening his eyes, he sort of smiles and finishes a complex run, and slowly sets his instrument to his side and opens his eyes, and immediately you notice that his eyes are a bright metallic silver. This man is in fact a Skyborn, and he smiles at you and he says, "Thank you for your patronage. It is an auspicious occasion when I can count such diverse folk, such as yourselves, among my audience. Clearly," and he looks at each of you, pausing slightly at Conra, and then continues and says, "Clearly, we share a common light, and it is to that light that I fear I must make an appeal regarding a certain predicament I find myself in." He seems strangely unsurprised. Glad, but unsurprised to see the four of you.
Conra was golf clapping for him until he got that weird look.
Sure.
And what would this predicament be that you seek help with?
He says, "Well, my teacher is gone missing. I suspect the worst, and I cannot trust true strangers to this deed. I say you are not true strangers because you, of course..." And again, he sort of glances sideways at Conra, but doesn't meet his gaze fully. "Because you are, of course, Skyborn, and I know in your hearts when a wrong has been done, or when someone requires your aid. So please, I ask you, help me and my teacher, and I will bring the four of you to mysteries that will unlock your greatest potential. For I can see that, for the most part, you are but a few steps upon your paths. Please, will you help a brother in need?"
I'm not so sure.
Our reasons for doing things are our own, and yet we are guided by the light and by our hearts. I thank you, Sister Pyroy.
I think there's been a mistake.
What is your name, young man?
Conra?
Conra, do not fear. Come, step forward if you would. No, it's all right. I just want you to have a look at something for me. And he reaches back into his pack and pulls out something that might very well bring you up short, Yaira. He brings out a carved wooden mask that you recognize as something that's given to honorary guild members on Vale. So this man has clearly been to several shards and done interesting things on all of them. But he holds out the shard and has sort of a concerned and confused look on his face and says, I've been told stories about where this came from, but I wonder, a scholar such as you, for clearly you are a scholar, are you not?
Well, yes.
I thought...
I don't... Yes.
I thought perhaps you might be able to tell me a bit more about this item. Would you mind having a look?
Yeah, am I? I will look at Yaira. Am I allowed to touch these?
Yeah, is hesitant to say anything because, yeah, technically you're not. But at the same time, if he was the owner, it should be fine.
Then, by all means, I will have a look.
Absolutely. Now,
I know what you're prompting
okay,
here.
great. And
yes.
I didn't misremember what we talked about, right?
Yeah. No.
Okay,
yes.
Okay, great.
Um.
So he hands it over, and he has that sort of confused and curious look on his face. But as soon as he hands this mask to Conra, the other three of you, Conra's, deeply engrossed in the mask, and he's not really paying attention. But the other three of you clock on this man's face immediately. As soon as he passes off the mask, his face blossoms into a bright, beautiful smile.
Bastard. So what do I roll for a chroma check?
So Conra is about to perform his very first chroma and our very first chroma of the campaign. So
yes,
what does that mean? So each of your chroma that you have, which as we mentioned earlier in the game, they are essentially the magic of this world. You channel various virtues of the Overlight to perform incredible feats. Each of your chroma has 2 virtues listed. So with a chroma test, instead of rolling 3 dice from a virtue and 3 dice from a skill, you're going to be rolling 3 dice from each of 2 virtues. So what are the 2 virtues for this chroma?
Logic and will.
Great. So your logic, I believe, is a D10.
12.
D12. Oh, you spent the point.
I just put it all the way up there.
I love it.
That's like 20 points you had to spend.
Yeah. Oh no, I went all out.
I love it.
I'm good at almost nothing else.
So 3D12, and what was the other virtue? Wisdom?
Will.
Will. Okay,
So
what's your will?
3d8 as well.
Okay, so 3D12,
and then a d4
3D8,
as well.
and a spirit die. Yes.
Cool. So I want to be rolling above a 6 on these?
6 or 6 or better. So 6s do count as successes.
Okay, that's 5 successes then.
Whoa! And what did you roll in your spirit die?
3.
Okay. 5. You said 5, right?
Yes.
Yes, 5 successes. Okay, that is a radiant success. And so, why don't you tell us... Well, let's see. Why don't you first describe what it looks like when you channel this chroma, and then we'll talk about what the chroma actually does. One of the cool things, as written in the rulebook about chroma, is that they all have unique visual components to them, right? Subtle or showy, doesn't matter, but every Skyborn that channels a chroma channels it a little bit differently, and there's some really cool examples of that in here. But what does Conra's version of this chroma look like?
Yeah. Should I say what this one's called?
What? Can you describe it first, and then we'll get into what it is?
Well, I think it's sort of
cool.
He picks this mask up from the man and sort of turns it over a couple of times. And I don't necessarily think he sees this, but as he's looking at it, the way that he turns it over sort of like bends the light around it funny. And so it shows reflections of the past in the strange bending of light that sort of turns like mirror-like and shimmery around it. And like he understands it in his brain, but he doesn't realize that it's a physical thing that's happening in the real world, because
Sure.
I think he kind of thinks it's a synesthetic thing that nobody else can see.
Sure. Great.
Nobody's
okay.
ever asked.
No, I love it. So why don't you now go ahead and tell us a little bit about what this chroma actually is?
Yeah, this is a Glimpse the Ancient. You can essentially pick up a thing and know its history with it. To put it very shortly.
Absolutely. So you succeeded on a radiant success for this, which means, first of all, one of the images in the bent light around... Oh, what did you get on your spirit die?
3.
Right, which means, so for chroma tests, your spirit die result is how many spirit points it costs you to perform said chroma.
So you want to roll low on that.
You want to roll low on those, yeah. So do you have,
Okay.
how many points are in your spirit pool before
7.
this chroma? Okay, great. So you do not
Yeah,
shatter,
no,
so...
I'm fine. It doesn't
right.
immediately like burn me out to do this.
So you use up 3 spirit points, and the very first images that you see in the bending of this light around the mask are 2 faces. One is the face of the man, the musician, that's right in front of you, and that's the most clear and the most present. But then you also see a masked figure, and they have a beautifully ornate mask of hammered bronze that is inlaid with what is the color? Orange. Yes. Inlaid with sort of orange gemstones all around the forehead and painted with the sigil that represents vigor. Which you are familiar with as a historian, no doubt. Painted on both cheeks with that sigil. So that's the first thing that comes to you. The second thing that comes to you, because of your radiant success, is how and where the item was manufactured. This item was manufactured on Vale in one of the guild houses, and each of the guild houses has their own method of creating these honorary masks. This one was done by a master woodcarver, and it took months to carve and piece together, and it's fairly simple but beautifully well wrought, and you can tell that. You can just feel the weight of those months of work within this mask.
All right. I will pretty much explain all of that back to him, that this was a masterwork of craftsmanship by one of the many guilds of Vale. It was a gift to you, I believe.
As soon as you look up and start talking, of course, Conrad, is very excited to be able to give him some information. But once you have a moment to sort of actually pay attention to the man that you're speaking to, you realize that he has this enormous smile on his face.
Have I been the subject of a joke?
Not at all. Turn. Let your friends have a good look at you.
I don't know half these people's names. He turns around anyway.
As he turns, saying, well, I don't know any of their names, the 3 of you see that Conra's eyes are bright silver. And I think that's where we're going to sort of leave it for this week in our little adventure. We have barely chipped the tip of the iceberg of this adventure to find this man's master and teacher, but I think we did some good role playing tonight, and we sort of got some of the basics of the game in, and we got Conrad to realize that he's a freaking sky. Well, maybe not yet, but he's well on the path to realizing he's a skyborn.
You think he'll notice eventually?
I think he's gonna have to.
Maybe.
The first mirror.
You'll notice when you shatter.
Right.
By that point, it would just be pragmatic to pay attention.
Absolutely. Oh, I love it. I've had such a good time. I'm very excited about where this is going to head. And in the coming weeks, when we sort of are able to jump in and get a solid 2 full hours in of adventuring and exploring this game, I think we're going to go to some really fun places. Let's go around. And once again, you all can introduce yourselves. Let us know where we can find you on the interwebs. And also, if you would, and this is something that I do in all of my stream games, if you would pick one of your favorite moments from this evening that you'd like to relive and share briefly. Let's go in the reverse order from where we introduced at the top. So we're going to start with Diana.
Hi, I am Diana Moon. You can find me on Twitter at Diana Moon. And one of my favorites. Oh goodness, I liked it all. I think it was pretty much the exchange between Conra and my character and like not understanding each other, and then finally, at least Conra understanding the situation. It's like, oh, okay, kind of thing.
I love that. Alicia.
Hey, I'm Alicia. You can find me on Twitter at NNG98, on Twitch at NNG9, and other stream stuff. My favorite moment was probably seeing Naughty like going back and forth between the two, just waiting.
Because this tiny little person.
I am so excited. I didn't fully appreciate the breadth of personalities that we have and how fascinating those interactions are going to be. I'm very excited. Speaking of Noti, let's go over to Victoria.
I'm Victoria. You can find me on Twitter at Mimi Merlot. And yeah, that's me.
Good moment from the night that you enjoyed?
Oh, right. Good moment from the night. I really enjoyed Siggy's entrance and sassiness.
Yes.
Made me laugh.
Yes. I love it. Last but most certainly not least, Nat.
I am Nat Rose. You can find me on Twitter at Nat Rose with a Z in it. And my favorite moment of the night was, I think, definitely the conversation about like different opinions on respect.
Yes.
Which I'm excited to see more going forward.
I was just going to say, I look forward to revisiting that.
Culture clash.
I love it.
Yeah, Noti's going to have to sit down and have like a meditation session and like
just
really
find a
like
bush.
No, to explain respect and respect for everything around.
I can't wait. That sounds like all of next week.
Yay!
I love
Can't
it.
Wait.
Once again, I'm Eugenio, sometimes known as your friendly neighborhood dungeon master, DM Jazzy Hands. You can find me on Twitter at DM Jazzy Hands. You can find my podcast on Twitter at DND Last Refuge. Thanks so much for being here. Once again, I am also on the Creative Council of Variant Roles, so I'm going to do a little bit of channel plugging for you all. Third and final time, I'll say, if you haven't already, hit the follow button. If you've joined us since the beginning, hit the follow button. We do, basically, we've got shows on every night of the week and then some at other points during the day. So we're running 8 to 10 different games and streams on here every single week. A lot of D&D, but a lot of we've got an Urban Shadows show. We've got this show for Overlight. We've got all kinds of systems and games going on, and it's a really exciting community. You can also follow the channel's Twitter account at Variant Roles, and we so appreciate your support in the form of just your presence, of being here, of watching, of participating in the chat, of being around. If you are able to do so and you're comfortable doing so and you would like to do so and want to go another mile in your support of us, the channel does have a Patreon that you can visit. patreon.com/variantroles, or of course you can subscribe to the channel here. Shout out to Anything RX for all of the gift subs tonight. We super appreciate you. And yeah, there's great stuff going on here every day of the week. Ah, crap, I didn't open up the calendar, so I don't know what the next show is. Do I have it?
Next Monday is the 4th.
No, our show, yes, our show will be next Monday, so you should all definitely be back at 9 p.m. Eastern for our next show, but I was going to see what show is on tomorrow night. If I can get it up quickly, I will. Also, I should say, they took the week off this week, but usually right before us, there's going to be a fantastic show called Grim Femmes, which is GM'd, I believe, by our community member Emma, who has put together a really fantastic show that I would highly recommend you all watch, and then stick around for our show. So they start on Mondays at 6 p.m. Eastern, and then the channel will roll straight into us. Looks like the next show is tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern, and that's a Velvet Soiree, so be sure to be here for that. Anybody else got anything left before we sign off for the night? We're a little bit early tonight. We won't be in the future, but our session 0.5 felt like it came to a good and happy ending point. Thanks so much for being here. You should also follow Renegade Games on Twitter and check out all of the stuff on their website. There's a bunch of free material on the Renegade website about Overlight, and you can find out about all of the races and about the shards and some of the basic mechanics of the game there. So go follow them on Twitter and check out their website. Anything else, Victoria, we should say about Renegade?
No, I think that's it. Keep your eyes open for cool Overlight stuff coming in the nearish future.
Yeah, and they've got all kinds of other great stuff going on, so you'll see on their Twitter and on their website they've got Kickstarters going and all kinds of other systems.
Yeah,
so go check them out.
We
yeah,
do have a Scott Pilgrim Kickstarter.
That's the
coming
one
up.
that's going on. Yeah, I couldn't remember what it was. I know you just finished the
Yeah.
Power Rangers one.
Yeah, we just finished Power Rangers, and we're actually going to be relaunching our Scott Pilgrim because we changed up the tiers a little bit.
Oh, great.
And yeah, so that's actually going to be starting this week.
Ooh, all right, so definitely go follow that Twitter account so you can get notifications on that. And just in general, we want to thank Victoria and Terry and everybody else over at not Variant Roles, that's us, at Renegade Game Studios for being so very generous and so awesome about partnering with us to get this game out to you all. That's all I've got for right now. Hey, anybody in chat see us, or any of you all see a stream that's live that we like, that we want to maybe raid? I can't see what's up because my computer's being weird. If not, we can also just call it a night. All right, we're going to call it a night. This is the one thing that I have never really been good at, which is preparing for raids at the end of our shows. I'm going to be better about that in future weeks. But for tonight, thank you all so much. Thank you for your support. Follow all of us on Twitter. Follow the channel and Renegade on Twitter. We will see you next Monday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. Hope to see you then. Happy gaming, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.